All right, welcome everyone. This is going to be your second video in chapter 2, module 1. All right, so we're going to talk about a little bit more about the command line and some of the commands that you're going to get familiar with. So let's go ahead and get logged in here. And come on, we're going. Let's go. All right, cool. All right, so last we left off, we were talking about the command line itself and being able to learn how to run commands. So we're going to dive into some more commands that are going to be kind of important that you should know how to use. So we're going to type in, the first one we're going to talk about is going to be the less command, okay? So less is a command that we use to display large chunks of information or text data. And this is where the file command becomes really important, because remember I said the file command tells you what kind of content's there, and that there are certain commands that only work with text files. So let's go ahead and do the Etsy. We're going to do a less on /Etsy/services. Okay. So notice right here, we have this information. So we can use the up arrow and down arrow to move up and down. We can use the enter key to move back a page, one line, or we can use the space bar to move back, or sorry, to move forward a page. So we're going to move forward a page, or we're going to move back a page using the B key. And then we also have our up and down. Now, if I want to go ahead and exit, we can type the Q, and the exit. The next command that we're going to talk about is going to be more. And I want to see if the most command is actually here. So there's less, there's more, and there's going to be significant differences between these. So more, notice I can only move up and down, but once you reach the end, it's done. Okay. So you can actually look at that a little more. You can also Google. There's going to be a question in one of the assignments or anything about what's the difference between less and more. Okay. There's also one called most. And the most is not there. So I can install it. So I'm going to go ahead and install it real quick. Let's go ahead and get that. Okay, cool. So now I should be able to do most. This is the most command. Now it's basically a blending of both the less command and the more command. So we have the ability to move up and down. With the up and down arrows, we can move pages. We can move, and it keeps track of what line I'm on versus in the percentage on the right-hand side. So you can use the most command too. I like using less. I'm going to start using most more because this is a more newer command. But yeah, this is a really good command to go ahead and use, and then be Q to exit. So the next command we're going to talk about is going to be the head command. And the head command is a little bit different in the fact that the head displays the top part of the text data, and specifically by default, the first 10 lines, okay? So we're going to do head. We'll type in head of /Etsy/services. So notice this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So what I'm thinking, why did I skip this? Because this actually is a continuation from the previous line. It's not a separate line. It's just because the word wrapping is enabled, so that way stuff goes in there. So this is actually 10 lines, okay? But we can also go ahead and use another command called tail, and it does the same thing, but instead of doing the top 10, it does the last 10. So we can do tail /Etsy/services. There you go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Now the cool thing about this is that they can also be changed to go ahead and actually add more than 10 lines or less than 10 lines. So to do that, we're going to give it the option of tac n, and what the option tac n means, display the number of lines x. Okay, x being the number, or x being before or after. So let's go ahead to n, and let's do instead of 10, let's do 4. Nope. Let's do 4 /etc services. So we're doing tail tac n. I want 4 lines, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the last 4 lines. Okay. I can also do the same thing with head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, you notice I just did something. So actually, one of the cool things is that, like the networking class and like Cisco iOS, Linux also has what's called a built-in autocomplete feature, and also it maintains a history of your command. So if you don't want to retype your command you did before, you just need to edit something from the previous command, you can hit the up arrow, and then it will cycle through the commands you've run so far. Now, if you want to go down, you hit to go back to let's say you pass it up, you hit the down arrow until you get to nothing. Now, the other thing is too is that let's say, for example, I don't remember I just remember it's not called. I don't remember it being called head. I just remember it's called HE. I can hit the tab key twice, and now it'll go ahead and give me the options of commands that start with the letters HE. Well, I can do HEA, and it completes it with the only other viable option is D, so head. Okay. So that's how we can use the tail command and the head command to go ahead and survey some information. Now, the next thing is too, we can then, now let's go and talk about some file manipulation, directory manipulation. Let's go ahead and actually make a directory. So in this one, we're going to use the mkdir, make directory, okay? And we're going to title this test. Okay. Now, if I do an ls command, you notice I have the directory test. How do I know it's a directory? It's a directory because it's got a D right here. Test. Okay. So we can create multiple directories. Now I can also copy the information, and there's going to be 2 commands we can use. We can use a copy command, or we can use a move command. They're not the same. Move actually go ahead and moves the original to a new one. Copy makes a copy of the original and keeps the original. Okay, so that's going to be the big difference. So we're going to do a. Let's go ahead and do a. We're going to do a copy. I want to copy this directory test. Okay, and what I'm going to do is call it test 1. So notice it said attack R. Well, it's because why? Well, because it's a directory. And while there may not be anything in the directory, there possibly could be. So it's telling you, hey, you need to specify the tag R. Because if you don't, then I'm not going to go ahead and carry anything that may be in the directory. So let's go ahead and run that again. And just to be able to show you that there should be no test 1. Notice there's no test 1. So let's go ahead and actually, we hit the up arrow key, and we're going to do the CP and give it the option of TACR, which stands for recursive. So recursively copy this directory and then anything below it. So now if I do an ls, I see I have a test and I have a test 1. Okay. So we can use that to copy. Now, let's say I wanted to move test into test 1. So I'm going to type in move test into test 1. Now, another thing you need to go ahead and realize is that notice there's been something very interesting, is that also I talked about this previous video, is that I've been using nothing but relative paths, and that's because the actual directory test is in the home folder, home user, excuse me, the home JDevNode folder. And then also test 1 is now in the home JDevNode folder as well. But let's go ahead and move the test folder into the test 1 folder. So now I do an ls. I don't have a test folder anymore. It's in test 1. It's supposed to be because I moved it there. Let's check. ls of test. We went into test one, we did a change directory, and we did an ls. Now, one of the cool thing is we're going to do a change directory, and let's go back one level. We'll go back to the user home/jdevno directory, right? And we're just so you make sure we're here, and this is where we're at. So one of the other things too is that you can actually go ahead and give it we're be giving it relative paths, okay? And that's because it knows where to go. But what if we don't have to do that? We can actually go ahead and do an ls of /test1/test, or /test, or ls of test1. Okay, we can do an ls of test1. Why is that? Because test1 is not in the root directory. Test1 is actually in the home/jdevno directory. But what we can do, we can go back up one more level, and we can do an ls of /test /home/jdevno/test1. Why are we using the absolute path? Because in home, you're going to notice if I did an ls, there's only one directory, and that's jdevno. So if I want to do an ls, I have to give it the absolute path, which is going to be, it's actually the test1 folder actually is under the tree home/jdevno/test1. And there you see I have test. So that's the copy command and move command. Another interesting thing is that we can actually use the move command to change the name of files and directories. So we can go ahead and do a move test1, and let's call it test2. Oh, that's why, because we're not there. So let's go ahead and actually, I'm going to do a change directory to jdevno, and then we're going to do a move test1 to test2. So now test1 is gone, and we've changed the name from test1 to test2. So test1 is gone. The original is gone. All right. That's really important because if you're doing the difference between move and copy, is very, very key component. So then we have also, we can actually delete stuff. And it's going to be using the rm command. So we can remove a file by typing in the file name, or we can remove a directory. But there's interesting things about, there's remove rm-dir test2. Okay. Notice we can't do that because it says it's not empty. So let's do an rm test2. And it says rm is only to remove files. Remove directories is to remove directories. Well, we can remove directories and files. But if and only if we tell them, hey, we need to be able to remove everything in that directory. So I'm going to remove test2. But instead of actually doing rm, I'm just going to do rm -r, saying remove not just test2, but also everything underneath it, which will be test1 or test. Now, if I do an ls command, you're going to notice that test2 is gone. All right, cool. So we talked about the remove command. Let's go ahead and make another directory, just so you can get used to it. So there's make dir. We're going to do this called test3. And we're going to do remove dir test3. Remember, this will give us an error message. Oh, it didn't. So the reason why is because, remember, when we had test in test1, it said that, or in test2, it said that there was already something in there and they couldn't remove it. So remember, this was this right here. So we have to do the same thing. So let's go ahead and actually, let's do make dir test3. And let's go and make another directory. This is going to be test3 / so inside test3, we're going to make another folder called new test. Okay. So if I do an ls of test3, I have two new tests. So let's go ahead and let's try to remove this directory. We're going to try and move test3. Again, we have the same problem. But we're going to give it the option to recursive remove. So we're not going to go ahead and, okay, so let's look at this real quickly. I'm going to do and you'll learn about this, the help command. Tac P, okay, so this one's tac P, not tac R. Okay, cool. So let's go back up, and this is going to be P. Cool. So the way this works is that I had to give it the entire path. So it's going to remove both the parent directory, which is going to be test3, and the new directory, new test. Okay, and that's going to be attack p command. I'm going to go about, again, these are not going to go ahead and make total sense, these options, but they will make a lot more sense when we go into the next section, which is going to be how to find help. But this is an example of how you would find help. So now the next question is that how do we create a file? We learned how to make directories. How do we create a file in the command line? Well, we have this something called the touch command. So if we want to create a file, you just say I want to touch and then the file name. So I'm going to go ahead and call this let's call this Elite Core. So I may now if I do an ls, notice that it's different. It's a different shade. It's not blue, it's white because it is a file, not a directory. If you're not too sure, you can do an ls tac l, get a long listing, and notice that the D is not there, it's a hyphen. And this actually can be something else too, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But notice that there's nothing in the file because we haven't written anything to it. And there's only this actually corresponds to the number of links that are there available. And then this is the name of the file, this is the modification time, so it's modified today. So that's how we go and create actual files. So with that being said, this is just, again, this is a basic primer of some of the commands that you need to go ahead and become familiar with. Very important, practice them. There's going to be a walkthrough so you can go ahead and actually start practicing some other commands and getting used to it. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video.